You probably watched some pro players in the past and thought, wow, they play so perfectly. Everything they do looks and appears to be executed to perfection. Well, I hate to break it to you, but these pros are human as well. They make mistakes too, just like the rest of us. These mistakes tend to be a little less obvious and apparent to the regular player. We've watched a ton of players in our time, including pros and friends, as well as random pugs, and of course, you guys, the viewers. From watching so many players, we've come up with 5 mistakes that we hate seeing. Worst of all, these mistakes are fairly common to see too. Let's break down these 5 mistakes and how you can start avoiding them to improve your play and save the sanity of your teammates as well as ourselves. Before we get into it, this video is just a snippet of what we provide. If you want a full detailed guide on how to improve in Valorant, then you want to go check out our website at SkillCapped.com. Our exclusive courses break down everything players need to know, step by step, to climb the ranks. Our simplified teaching style ensures that any player can understand and apply these concepts. The link will be provided in the description below. Now let's jump into the video. First up, the most frustrating mistake we see players making is overheating. If you aren't familiar with the term, overheating is when you're really feeling yourself. Your aim and mechanics feel good, and as a result, you overstep your boundaries. Most commonly, this includes unnecessarily pushing too deep into enemy territory, as well as peeking an enemy that you really didn't need to. Let's go over this first clip from Tens. He starts off holding stairs in spawn, which is a typical position to be in. His patience is eventually rewarded as he snags an initial frag, thus giving his team a man advantage. At this point, he's already given the team a big lead. It's not entirely necessary to try and go for more and risk losing that man advantage. This is exactly what Tens does though. He peeks again and gets bopped by the enemy chamber's rendezvous. Tens swings big and has his crosshair placed to the right. He doesn't seem to expect a player on the left at spawn based on the way the crosshair is positioned. With this wide swing, he exposes himself too far out, making it harder to land his own shots while giving Chamber an easy frag. Now he's given the enemy team a 4v4 situation and a way back into the round. Let's look at a more extreme example by Sick. In this particular round, he smokes out for his team and ends up using his ultimate onto the back of Heaven. The idea is definitely there. Sick is trying to cut off rotations. However, this is an extremely risky play to make. He's essentially hoping that he teleported early enough to catch rotations, while also hoping that no one that's close to sight heard his TP. Along with that, he's banking that the enemies aren't gathered together to trade him. All these factors lining into place are extremely unlikely. As you may expect, Sick gets out of his ultimate and doesn't even get a chance to pull out his weapon before he gets caught and eliminated. This is definitely an overheat. He went for a big play with a low chance of success and survival. Now, not every big aggressive push is an overheat, if it's done correctly. For example, you typically wouldn't want to just push down A long into lobby without any intel or backup. Luckily here, he has backup from his KO, and with the help of his KO flashing for him, Omen gets to swing big and snag 2 easy frags. This is just a good team play and coordinated push, rather than an overheat. You'll typically see an overheat done by a single player. When you and your team have a man advantage, there's no need to try to go for more, especially when the enemy knows where you are and you try to immediately peek the same angle. Chances are the enemy's now prepared for that, and you're likely to lose the duel and give up the advantage that you worked so hard to gain for your team. Get the pick you were looking for, and if you succeed, just back up, maintain that edge, and play around with your team to ensure the greatest chance of completing the round with a W. Whatever you do, don't try to go for another big unnecessary peek into multiple enemy players. That's a throw. Moving on from that, one of the biggest mistakes players make is focusing too much on the numbers. We get it. Everyone likes to frag out and get high kills. If you're doing so, you're probably contributing quite a bit to winning rounds and games. However, high kills don't always tell the big story. Let's take 2 scenarios. You have a Jet who's got 30 kills at the end of the game. However, 90% of those kills were during eco rounds. Then, let's say we have another teammate, Sky. They got 10 kills at the end of the game and bottom fragged. However, Sky clutched 5 1v2 rifle rounds during the game, forcing the enemy team to play more save rounds where your Jet got most of her kills. Who made more impact during the game, your Jet or the Sky? I'd argue that the Sky actually made more impact than the Jet, despite having only a third of the kills. Those eco rounds that Jet was farming off of were rounds that your team were essentially set to win, regardless if Jet popped off. Sure, there's always the chance that something crazy happens and the enemy wins those eco rounds if Jet doesn't frag, but the odds are low. Sky winning those clutch situations are what forced the enemy into so many eco rounds in the first place. Jet wouldn't have been able to farm kills if it wasn't for Sky constantly destroying the enemy's economy. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not a big fragger. I won't consistently top the scoreboard. What I will consistently do is make sure I make an impact on the big rounds. That's what you should be focusing on in your games, rather than trying to get high kills. Impact can expand further than just getting the crucial frags too. Simple tasks, like baiting the enemy team to rotate off a site, can be impactful to your team winning a round. Or stalling the enemy down to the last second with utility so they have to perform a scrappy push. That's impact. Anything that helps give yourself an advantage over the enemy is impact. Think about your games in this manner, rather than just seeing what your KDA is in every match. We guarantee you'll find something good that you're contributing. And if not, then that gives you a chance to reflect more on how you can add more impact. Besides taking risky raw aim duels in an attempt to obtain a crazy number of frags. And following that up, a ginormous mistake we see players making is not playing retake enough on the defense side. Let's get this straight though. If you have a good setup to defend a site, then you absolutely want to stay and try to defend it until your teammates arrive. However, there are times when the setup just isn't good. Maybe you stacked the wrong site that the enemy was going to. Now there's only one player there. If that player hears the attackers pushing in, they should only go for a peek if they have a way to escape afterwards. Otherwise, they're nearly guaranteed to get eliminated. In those unfavorable situations, it's best to just back off and wait for the cavalry to arrive. Save your utility so it can be better used with your team to retake. In this clip, we see TSM pushing onto the A site. 100 Thieves only has Chamber here. The rest of the team is on B and C. Unless Chamber goes nuts, he's at best going to get one kill before backing out. Chances are he gets eliminated if he stays on site. He makes the right decision to teleport away after getting hit by utility and seeing the enemy charging in hard to the A side. He usually sets up a pretty sweet off angle on boxes with his teleport that nets him a frag before backing up onto safety. With this play, the round turns into a 5v4 rather than a nearly guaranteed 4v5 or 4v4 situation. With 5 players charging in together with utility, the retake becomes much easier. Omen smokes off the choke points and Paranoia is in. Sky flashes out as well, and Breach uses Rolling Thunder to top it all off. With all these abilities coming at them, it's so hard for the attacker to effectively defend the site without tanking something. Neon gets concussed and eliminated, Chamber's forced to back away after a pick and ends up spotted and traded. From there, it's a 4v2, and the remaining players push together as a team to secure the round. This retake was made simple because of the numbers advantage and amount of utility still available by the defenders. Next time you're holding a site and it's not favorable for you to defend it before backup arrives, think about giving it up, wait for rotations, and just play retake. This is especially true when you're at a man advantage. If you're in, say, a 5v3 situation, chances are you have 2 players each site and 1 in middle. If the 3 attackers push onto a site, it's gonna be a 3v2 situation. Not too bad considering the enemy doesn't know where you are. But if you're in positions that are predictable and already discovered, the enemy does actually have strength in numbers along with that intel. This could lead to the attackers actually sweeping the site defense. Suddenly a 5v3 advantage is now 3v3 with attackers having the spike down and even potentially positioned for the post plant already. A highly winnable round is suddenly way less winnable. Again, we don't mean you should just straight up run from a site if the attacker's pushing. If you're in a good position with utility to spare, you can stay and duke it out. If you're in a bad position and don't have utility versus the attackers who do and can still push hard onto a site, you may want to consider backing off. Regroup and play the 5v3 retake rather than risking the attackers sweeping your site and making the round way more winnable for them. This is likely the most common mistake we see in Valorant, and that is crouching during your duels. We get it, crouching's practically second nature for players to do when they engage with aim fights. The whole idea is that it makes your shots more accurate. And while this may be the case, the slight accuracy boost isn't worth the bigger cons of crouching. First, crouching will only put you at headshot level for low elo range. mistakes. Most lower ranked players don't have good crosshair placement. They're likely staring more towards the ground or body. Therefore, if you crouch, you're lowering your head straight down to their crosshair. You're practically handing them a free headshot. Second, crouching significantly limits your mobility. You won't be able to move away from your position easily after you're crouched. You're 100% committed to the fight you're about to take. And if any other enemies show up, you won't be able to reposition for them. The lack of freedom to move after you've crouched can be extremely detrimental. If the aim duel goes south, you won't have the opportunity to back out of it. This versus standing up, where you can sidestep away fairly quickly. And third, crouching forces you to have to adjust your own crosshair during the aim duel. Say we have good crosshair placement, we're ready to knock someone's head off with a single bullet, but then we decide to crouch. Our crosshair drops, and instead of hitting that sweet headshot, we get a body shot instead. No bueno. Unless you're used to keeping your aim above head level, crouching's actually going to make aiming harder for you overall. As a rule of thumb, you should only crouch during these certain scenarios and criteria. One is if you're playing at diamond level and above. These players are likely to have better crosshair placement and headshot percentages. Because of that, crouching against these players can be good, as you'll be forcing them to have to adjust and aim lower to land the headshot. That gives you more time to adjust your own aim and eliminate them. The only other time you should crouch is if you have cover in front of you. If crouching will cover more of your body and make it tougher for the enemy to land a shot, then absolutely you should do so. There are quite a few boxes around the Valorant maps that'll basically only expose your head to the enemy if you crouch. This gives you a massive advantage during a duel against a fully exposed player. Other than these two scenarios though, you should focus on standing and shooting rather than crouching. Last but not least, this mistake is incredibly common and under-realized, and that's when players don't look at their minimaps enough. There are three main sources you can get information from in Valorant. One is obviously what you see in the middle of your screen and peripherals. The other is what your teammates communicate to you. And the third is the minimap, which isn't so many when you think about how much information is packed onto there. On the minimap, you can find a plethora of information. Where are your teammates? Are any enemies spotted? What abilities are currently up on the map? This could include a smoke on a choke point, or maybe a sage wall that's up but about to break. Knowing that, you may have to reposition yourself accordingly. In a game like Valorant, where actions happen in a matter of seconds, you need to be constantly looking at the minimap. That way you can instantly tell if an enemy's been found and are pushing, or if your teammates have suddenly changed positions and left a gap in the defense. Another common example is when you're on the attacker side, and suddenly your team starts pushing onto a site without giving you a heads up. Suddenly it's like, oh shoot, I need to run over to that side, or maybe I'm lurking and need to start inching forward faster to spot rotations, or maybe I need to quickly throw abilities such as a smoke or a flash from the side so my team can effectively push and get onto the site. Professional players claim they'll practically spend the same amount of time looking at the minimap as they do looking towards the middle of the screen, where their vision is typically centralized. Now, that doesn't mean that you should be pushing an area and suddenly looking at the minimap mid-aim duel. If the coast is clear, take a quick peek up there to make sure nothing drastic has happened that you hadn't expected. You're likely to spot some valuable info at one point or another during the round by consistently moving your eyes up there. Just make sure you don't get yourself killed in the process. That's all we have for today's video. Next time you're in your Valorant games, look for these mistakes. If you spot yourself making those same mistakes, stop and correct them. Erase them from your memory so you can start replacing them with better habits that'll help you improve at a quicker rate. That's gonna do it for us today though. As always, we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.